Most of the agency pricing advice that I see online just treats pricing like a knob that you can just turn up whenever you want. But that is bad advice, because in the real world, pricing just doesn't work like that. Especially if you work with smaller clients who are only spending 3, 5, maybe up to 10K a month on ads, you will never be able to just raise your prices like that. And so in this video, I will tell you exactly how you should think about your pricing if you just want to make a lot of money with your agency. And so I'll start with a very quick introduction about us. So I run a finance firm in the agency space. We are currently oversee over 70 million in agency revenue. We've served over 50 agencies and I've reviewed hundreds of P&Ls. And for our clients, we handle everything from the bookkeeping to the invoicing and the CFO strategy, which is exactly where we've helped dozens optimize their pricing for maximum profit. So let's dive right into it. First, I want to talk about the pricing models we currently see work. The first one are still just the flat retainers. This works extremely well when you have a very fixed and predictable scope for clients, and you can bring on a lot of clients in a predictable way. And the next one is a percentage of ad spend. This is when you have your variable fee tied to the client spend. This is a great model if you're really scaling up clients very fast and you want to be very aggressive on the performance element. You might still be a little bit newer in the agency space, and so this model really helps clients, share the risk. And then the third one, this is the hybrid, where you have a lower fixed fee and then a performance element on top. My favorite structure here is that you charge a fixed amount or 10% of ad spend, whichever is greater. So you always have your floor covered, but there's still the upside. This is what we have our most profitable clients do currently. What you should avoid, in my opinion, is any other form of performance-based fee. Percentage of revenue or percentage of profit, these are the worst in my opinion, because here you're taking on partner level risk without getting the equity, and on top of that, reporting is also a nightmare when you have to deal with attribution just to figure out whether you should be getting paid or not. So the admin burden here is massive. Also, hourly billing, don't do this. I don't see many agency owners actually have hourly rates anymore. This only works for little one-off projects where the scope is just extremely unclear, but otherwise this model is dead. So now the big question becomes, how much should you charge? And this is more important than even the structure that you use. And so I want to have you get it out your head that you just need to raise your prices at all costs. Because as I said, this just doesn't always work. So instead, this is how you can find the right price to charge. First, you got to think about the exact agency you're building. Because right now, from all the agencies we see, there's two paths that you can go down on. One is the volume path. The other is the premium path. If you go for volume, your numbers may look like this. If you want to get to 100K a month, or this can even scale all the way up to 500K a month. That's why we have our larger clients on this model. You can see at 100K, you might have 50 clients, you have smaller retainers, 2K a month, your team, mostly junior and offshore, and your real edge is in the systems. Compare that with the premium model, where you may only have 10 clients here, your retainers are 10K a month, your team is senior, and your edge is the talent. And so this is something that almost no one is talking about when it comes to pricing, because your price is ultimately what builds the rest of your agency. And so if you want to go down the volume path, you are most likely going to be forced to either go super heavy on AI or to have a more junior team. This can be an amazing business, but you need to be spending your time getting the systems right. Versus if you want to go this premium path, you need to be speaking with much larger brands, much larger clients. You need to enjoy working with senior level team members who are very different on how you manage them. And that is really the edge of how well you can bring people together and have them do work. So that is the starting point of the decision of what the right price is for you. And just to give one more example here of how you can really think about this, and that is just to visualize the P&L of your client. So here, just any type of business that has some sort of delivery in here. If you work with clients who are only making like 10% margin, maybe they're kind of like around 200K-ish a month in size, you can guess what their cost, will most likely look like. Then you can already see that if this is the type of client you work with, who can only really afford 25K a month in ad spend, then it's gonna be impossible to be charging them 10K a month and not have them churn after 2 or 3 months because the fee just doesn't make sense. This may work if you are extremely good at what you're doing. You can really scale up these clients fast, but you have to even keep in mind that they have their own issues. They have their own operational complexities. And most likely, the average business you'll be working with just doesn't scale as fast as you may project on your spreadsheet. And so if you're looking to get a lot of these types of businesses, it is going to be unrealistic to charge them 10K a month because it simply doesn't work on their P&L. And so you have to ask yourself, what are the type of businesses that you enjoy working with? What are the type of businesses that you can predictably acquire? And then what is the fee size that makes sense for this stage that they are at and the cost that they have? And so this matters greatly what type of businesses you work with. Whether you are with e-com who are like looking to reinvest everything into their product, or whether you're working with a SaaS who's raised money, has a bunch of cash to burn, and they just need to get as many leads and users as possible to satisfy their investors and to set themselves up for a next funding round. Like those P&Ls look very, very different, and that matters greatly what you can charge. And so I want to give you one more example here of what this actually looks like in practice. Because as I've been pointing out, it doesn't matter whether you go the volume route or the premium route. As we've seen, many agencies make both models work, but it is just so important that you choose one path and build your agency for that. And so this is an example of where this can work. This was an agency that they were roughly at 100K a month. I just rounded the numbers here for simplicity. They were also just around 65% profit margin, and that's that gross profit we're talking about. And if we just look at how they are structured at, the 100K, they were around 2K a month in average retainer size, so around 50 clients. And so here it's like their structure was very simple. They had the head of delivery, and then they had still the onshore account managers, still more junior level roles that were getting paid around like 4 to 5K a month. And then they had some offshore media buyers, designers, and some contractors they used. They were doing great. Like they were making good money. It was very predictable. When they had some churn, it wasn't that big a deal, and they could sign a lot of clients because the barrier to entry and to work with them was so low at 2K a month. But of course, it looks very different on the operational side. Because if we look at a more premium business, this one, if you have the 10 clients at 10K a month, this is how one of our other clients was structured. At this level, they just had one person in each role. And so they just had a very well paid managing director, 10K a month. And then they had some still slightly more junior, but still premium enough, a senior strategist, a creative lead, a paid media lead, and then a couple contractors they used every now and then. They were at similar margins, very different business, nearly a third of the people to manage, a fifth of the clients to manage. But it is, of course, much harder for them to get a client when they do have a churn or when a client is unable to pay or scale. Then they are stuck with these expensive roles. And so this is really the difference here. And that really shows like in this example here, where you do look when it goes wrong. Here on the left, this is like what it is when it's done right. Here on the right, this is where we see agencies get stuck, where they still work with these lower ticket clients, but they have more expensive team members that they need to hire. They need to then hire management layers. And so this is what we see a lot of the time, where they scale, they do sign clients, they're working their asses off to bring more leads in, to close them, to build the agency up. But then their backend keeps breaking, churn keeps picking up. So they need to hire more people. They need to step in themselves. They need to try trying new tools, they get more coaching programs, they do whatever they can to try and stop the churn and still keep growing. And then as a result, that profit just stay flat, no matter how much they're growing. And it's all so volatile and so much work. And it's because they didn't get this split right between being a premium agency or a volume-based agency. So to end this here, I'd like you to take your time to answer these two questions to figure out which route you should go down on. And the first question is, what can your realistic clients actually pay? And with realistic clients, I mean the clients that you can actually get, that you can acquire easily. We're not talking about a random referral here or there, which maybe a large agent, like a large client for your agency, or maybe a small client. We're talking about the clients that you can build a system for, that you resonate with, that you enjoy working with, that you have a good founder fit with, because that is so important if you really want to scale. And so that might be, if you're very good at what you do, you enjoy the work, you enjoy scaling brands, then you should accept the longer sales cycles to get in with the bigger companies who can pay you 10K a month, 20K a month. We even have clients that are getting paid 80K a month from just one client when they're scaling them up properly. And so that is the first question. Based on the stage you're at and based on what you enjoy, what is the realistic client for you and what can they pay based on their P&L and the stage they're at? Then the second question here is, does your cost structure match that price? And so again, going back to that example, if you have a lower price, you need to accept that you also need a cheaper team. Because if you try and have expensive people just cover 50 plus clients, we've seen time and time again, it just doesn't work. Because no matter how good someone is, they're just unable to give attention to that many clients. So you will need to have a bigger team or be extremely advanced with your AI so that you can actually give a good enough service, because even at 2K a month, a client will leave if they feel neglected or if it's not an actual personal relationship involved. So I hope that was useful. If you want to chat some more about this, or if you have any questions about your pricing, you can message me directly, or you can go on the link here below and then you can get a free offer for us where we can do a full setup and cleanup of your bookkeeping, which we're currently doing for free for the first 10 agencies that apply. And so you can book a quick call with me and then I'll talk you exactly through that. And then with that said, I hope you have a great day.